You said you're going to tear your clothes. Yeah. Oh, I'll do it for you. So I'll do the tear on everybody and we'll say the blessing together. So we'll do it together. I'm going to start the tear. The ribbons are hand tear. So you can tear it by hand. And you're going to tear your Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the service. We ask if you have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Yitzchak Bergstein. We're zooming out, so watch the line behind you.
Family and friends, we're gathered here today to mourn the passing and honor the life of Jeffrey Zemel, Yaakov Hershman, Yisrael Laib Halevi. He's survived by his siblings, Dean and Debbie, Gale and David, Ellen, nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews, who he loved and adored. We're going to begin the service with a citation of several chapters of Tehillim, Psalms. I'll first read in Hebrew, then in English, followed by some words of the siblings. Asher Yoish, Asher Lihala Bas Asher Shoyim, Derechatoim, Liyamad, Mishavitzim, Liyashav, Yinusidas Adonai Chefze, Yavsiras, Yagi, Yimama, Loyla, Oyoke, Chaso, Paki, Moyim, Asher Piri, Timi, Tivalea, Liba, Cholosh, Yasa, Yasliach, Lechena, Shoyim, Kim Kames, Asher Feneruach, Akina, Yakum, Shoyim, Mishvachatoim, Sadikim, Kidea, Sadikim, Derek, Shoyim, Teve. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, the one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating in God's Torah day and night. And will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. Psalm 15, Mizmor David. Adonai mi yagabal lecha mi yishim harkot shecha. Hail tamim hail tzedek v'dei remes v'lavei l'rogal al hashenu v'yasel v'rei yokarav v'chapel inos akrevei. Niv zabein of nimos v'siri and v'yichabed. Nishvar l'harab l'yomer kasbe l'nosam nishvar v'neshach v'shechal al-nakir l'lakach. Eisa'ila l'yimil l'yelam. A song of David, Lord, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell in your holy mountain. One who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart. Who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor casts disgrace towards a neighbor. In whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully even to personal hurt, and never retracts, who does not lend money and interest, and takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Psalm 23, Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roy LeYachsor Ben Esdesi, Yabi Seini Yamei, Menuchis Yaleini, Nafshi Yeshev Yancheni Magli Tzedek Aman Shemai, Gam Ki Yeleb Yitzamov Esiraki Ato Yimadi, Shiv Tchom Asher Tachim Yinachamonim, Tarel Padin Shochen Eget Seir, the Shantam Shemeresh Keshe Devaya, Active Chesi, the Funikol Yimekhayoy, Vishavti Vesadinoi Lerech Yamim. Find the English inside your booklets. We recited together a song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God makes me lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous path of God's name, for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff that comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May all the goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I should dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Yeah.
I have to read because otherwise I'll just fall apart. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank all those from Lambs and Seguin to David, who's my rock, who loved Jeffrey as much as I did, my siblings, and Richard Smith, Jeffrey's very best friend, his best friend forever. Let me assure you, I knew Jeffrey had Down syndrome. I knew he was 65 years old. I knew he already had a major stroke. But I told him he couldn't check out before me. I needed him to be there for me, to remind me that we grew up together in Fort Atkinson, to keep me safe and in line. When I would mention I had a brother with Down syndrome, often I'd hear, "I'm sorry." Now you could feel bad that Jeffrey didn't have the same opportunities that he witnessed his siblings and later nieces and nephews get, opportunities he desperately wanted also. But never feel sorry for me. Jeffrey was the most important and best gift I ever received. He gave me unconditional friendship, unconditional love, and wait-and-see hope. He always was there for me, even after his first stroke. It was a privilege and honor for me to care for him since he actually did become disabled. He is my rock, my hero, my love. There are no words to describe how I'm going to miss him. When I think of my younger brother Jeff, his attitude, how he treated people, and his love of life comes to mind. People with Down syndrome are often stereotyped as having a happy attitude and disposition. Jeff was a happy person, but he definitely had attitudes about what he liked, including the Cubs, his family and friends, ketchup with some hot dogs on the side. He also had strong attitudes about what he disliked, such as vegetables. When people irritated him, he would definitely make that clear. And, Dean, I'm really sorry, the Brewers. Jeff must have learned along the way how to treat people. And like most things, when Jeff would learn something, he would amplify it and express it with confidence. For example, Jeff always welcomed people with enthusiasm, a big smile, and a hello. And if he didn't know you, he would say, "Name? What's your name?" And then, after he got the name, he'd proceed to introduce that person to everybody else in the family. One time, we walked into services, and as the rabbi was working on the pulpit, Jeff stood up and he was waving to the rabbi and waving to the rabbi as the rabbi was conducting services. And he kept waving until the rabbi waved back. And so after services, I went up and I apologized to the rabbi for the interruption. But the rabbi interrupted me and said, "Who else makes me feel so important and like $1 million?" Yes, Jeff had a way of treating people like they were famous. Jeff had this enormous love of life and people. He loved going out to movies, restaurants, to people's homes, celebrating Shabbat dinners, concerts, the fireworks, parties, cruises, and it just seemed to go on and on for Jeff. He loved anything that would enable him to have fun. However, Jeff had some annoyances too, such as having to sit at the end of a seat at a table or in the theater, in the front seat of a car. He would displace everyone. I had to tell him my mom was a lot older, in her 90s. She should be in the front seat. No. And he would also use rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of toilet paper. And he would flood most toilets. We joked that we were buying stock in toilet paper. But often you had people who wondered why. Did God give Jeff and other people with disabilities so many challenges? Why does God test people like Jeff? But what I have come to learn is that it is not Jeff who is being tested. It's all of us. One friend taught me this lesson. We were at a concert at Northwestern. It was an original orchestra piece. A friend who was a concert pianist was sitting between Jeff and myself. In the middle of this orchestra piece, there was a long pause, a silence. And that exact moment, Jeff went, "Ah!" and it just echoed through the theater. I was horrified. I sank in my seat. However, my friend in the middle leaned over and whispered to me, "Wow, he did that right on the beat." Lastly, I remember what Jeff's nephew Laib always said to me. "Ema, I like it better when Uncle Jeff is home with us. He makes things more fun. I even have fun fighting with him. And I love when he's here for longer periods, like during COVID and all the times that he rehabbed at our house for all his surgeries. And when we took our trips together, everything is just more fun when Uncle Jeff is with us." I agree. It was more fun with Jeff. Jeff was a great teacher and role model on how to appreciate life, share love, and have fun. I like it too when Jeff is home with us. And like you, I too will miss Jeff. I do want to thank my sister for being Jeff's care manager since he experienced his first stroke. You were an amazing advocate for Jeff and always made sure he had the best care and that his needs were always met. And to Dean, the other sibling, who Jeff loved to fight with. But again, like Laib, it's kind of fun to fight with Jeff. And to the caregivers at Seguin, thank you. It was obvious he had good care. To Lamb's Farm, where Jeff lived for 40 years, he loved it and he called it home. To the doctors Aaron and Brian at the Adult Downs Clinic, your expertise on Downs was invaluable over the years. And to the West Suburban Special Recreation Association, Jeff had so much fun at the socials and bowling. And to Richard Smith, Jeff's best friend. You were the best friend to Jeff. Jeff could never ask for a better friend.
I'm Dean, the older brother who fought with him all the time. You know, I always wanted a brother. I was the oldest of the 4 kids, and I had a beautiful sister, Gale, who, I was only 22 months old when she was born. It didn't mean much to me, and I wasn't that much older when Ellen was born. But by the time Jeff came around, I really wanted a brother. And we discovered Jeff's disability when he was a year old, because back then they didn't have tests. As soon as someone was born, our parents saw that he wasn't walking after he turned 1, not even crawling, I don't think, and so they took him to the doctor and got the news. The advice of the doctor and the nurse and the social worker was, put him in a home, forget about him. That wasn't my parents. Thank God. It was not my parents, our parents. He stayed home. For a long time, I felt screwed. Today, I feel blessed. I wanted a normal brother, but I got something even better, a very special brother. He loved me. He loved all of us without condition. I was 8.5 when Jeff was born, and he was 8.5 when I went off to college. So I only had 8.5 years of intense, although all the time with Jeff turned out to be intense. But for those 8.5 years, there were periods of time when I was embarrassed to be seen with him. Oh, how I regret that today. You know, as a high school kid, you want to be cool, and how can you be cool with a brother who has Down syndrome? But in those 8 years, we did have some great times together. We would wrestle on the living room floor in our house in Port Atkinson. I would be on my knees, and I can't figure out how it happened, but he usually beat me. And he thought it meant he was stronger than me. Well, fine. Go with it, Jeff. Go with it. We slept in the same bedroom. My sister slept in one room. Jeff and I slept in the other. We each had our own beds, but we really didn't need Jeff's bed because almost every night he would crawl into bed with me. I hated it then. I wish he could crawl into bed with me today. Maybe, I'd like to think that our wrestling was the catalyst for his obsession with professional wrestling. You know, we all took him to professional wrestling, and he was in another universe. Wasn't even there. He got up, he went up to the front of the ring. I'm going, Jeff, no, we sit here. Nobody stopped him. He was there. I wonder what would have happened if he'd climbed into the ring. And when he came to our homes, and when he was at Lamb's, we would rotate with my mom to take him to our house for a week, each weekend. He never, or at the most, rarely stayed at Lamb's on a weekend because they didn't have the activity for him, and he wanted to be with his family. He loved his family just as we loved him. He also had his compulsions when he came to our house. You know, he wants ice cream. Okay. Big. You know, you'd give him one scoop, he'd want two. You give him, okay, Jeff, you can have two. He wanted three. When you finally said no after three, well, then came the whipped cream. And I had to put it on because if he had put on the whipped cream, we'd have needed a new can for every bowl of ice cream he had. But, and he did damage to our house. He was compulsive to the point where our blinds needed to be closed. He could not go to sleep at night, knowing that a window was not closed and the blinds shut. We have we just moved from our home, but we had a number of broken blinds when we left because, you know, Jeff's motto was, if it doesn't work, just try harder. And ultimately, if he was trying harder in a direction that the thing he was working with, it wasn't meant to go in that direction, it would snap off. And I'd say, Jeff, you broke this. Never accepted responsibility. He would always go, B. That meant Debbie. You know, she did it. Or I said, Debbie's upstairs sleeping. What are you talking? Oh, B. You know, I tried to teach him responsibility, but without an ounce of success. Being brothers, we teased each other all the time. We did have that normal relationship. Brothers tease. And he loved to play tricks on me. We had a game where he would try and give me a kiss, and don't give me a kiss. Of course I wanted a kiss, and he would wait till I wasn't looking, and then he'd lunge at me. And I would lunge away because I knew his tricks. And he would laugh and laugh. Occasionally, he succeeded in kissing me. And I always succeeded in kissing him. You know, another thing I remember is you go in the car especially in the winter, but not necessarily in the winter, and you see any hint of Christmas. It could be snow. It could be a picture of Santa Claus. It could be an evergreen tree. And Jeff would always say, ho, ho, ho. You know, Jeff, it's not Christmas. We're Jewish. We don't, ho, ho, ho. That was Jeff. When Jeff was at Park Ridge, my wife and I would split visits with our daughters, and thank God our mother never was not alive to see Jeff in such a pathetic situation. But we, even though we had a 2.5 hour drive each way from Milwaukee, which is where we lived, now we live in Madison, which is another half hour away. We came. My sisters asked, can you help us out so we're not there all the time? I said, let's do it. And there were times, one time I think we were there 4 out of the 7 days, usually about 2 days. My sisters were always there. When not with Jeff, there were times I thought about him as just a pain in the ass. But when he saw me walk into the room that he was in, the whole building could hear, dee! And then he'd go, bee, 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 you know. Debbie had to come with, and she did. And he was just so excited, and like Ellen, I think it was, who said, the thing that always kept us together, if I wanted to get a positive response out of him, I'd say, Jeff, we grew up together. He'd go, yeah. I said, in Wisconsin. He'd go, yeah. In Fort Atkinson, yeah. I could always start off on a positive note that way, no matter what kind of mood he was in. He loved Lamb's Farm. He kind of acted like he was the mayor of Lamb's Farm. But once he had his stroke, he could not live the way he lived. He was very social, bound to a wheelchair, still very conscious. He tried to make it with every girl at the Park Ridge Care Center, even the unconscious ones. He had an amazing life. Most of all, he had amazing parents who gave him that amazing life. We just followed our parents' lead. In fact, Mom started a preschool for disabled kids. There was nothing in Fort Atkinson. And Jeff always had great advocates, Gale and Ellen. I was on the fringes. My job was to tease him. Be his big brother. That's all. Jeff, I love you with all my heart and all my soul. And I'll also miss you so very much with that same heart and that same soul.
Jeffrey, I got this for you. I'm making one of these pieces for you. Hope I do this. Anyway, this one's Jeffrey, and I love him. He's my good best friend. His favorite is carrot cake. Yeah, like me and him, I carrot cake. And my mom is his favorite cake is carrot cake. And he likes carrot cakes. He likes everything he likes. I do too. I'm gonna make my buddy
He likes to come from the one of us series. He's on the series game. He was happy in that one of us series. And I love him so much. I love you. One of the days, and I work with him in that nursing home. I was his therapist on his back. And my neck kick, the hand stuff, as he does. And I was doing that too with him. And one thing, it makes me laugh. I make him laugh a lot. But no, I know his parents, mean well. I still love them. And also, you know what, one thing is this, I want some milk. That's his favorite word. I want some milk. And he likes meatball sandwiches. I do too. They have rainbow cake. And he loves it too. I was just eating it. And this is the best one I ever have. This is the second one. And he likes also too. And this is a good friend of mine. And I love him. Rest in peace. I love you.
Yeah, come this way with you. Yeah, we just don't want him to go. I don't want to go this way. Yeah, come this way. Come this way. Come this way and give me.
Hasidic masters teach us that nothing is by coincidence. Everything is by divine providence. As when I got the message from David that Jeff had another stroke, I headed over to Rush. As I get onto the Eisenhower, the car right in front of me had a license plate. Oi Gewalt. You can't make these things up. That's all we could say. Oi Gewalt. Jeff was like family to us. In Jewish tradition, Friday afternoon, we don't give eulogies due to the holiness of the day, but we could speak about the deceased and learn from their lives, the experiences that we had. We heard so much from the siblings. I'm sorry if I repeat anything, because, as I said, we're a family. Jeff taught us so much in the way he lived, the way he loved. We're standing by his bedside with his family around him. Ellen played several songs. One of them was a Hasidic, from a Hasidic group, Eighth Day. And the song title is Just Like You. And that really sums up Jeff. That was Jeff's life. The care, the love that Jeff's parents gave him, the siblings gave him, it was unheard of back in the day. Parents insisted he goes to the regular schools, have the activities that all regular children have. Horseback riding until he had his spine surgery, right? He wanted to make sure that everyone knew he's just like you. He would come to services, he would come to Chabad, And sometimes he'd walk in when I was in the middle of the sermon. He'd look at me, just like your story, with this infectious smile. Hug? His job when he came to services was to tie up the Torah, and he loved it so much. That was his job. He could sleep through the entire service, but you had to wake him up to tie the Torah, and he woke up, did his job, went back to sleep. When the Torah would come around, he would give it such a kiss with two hands. He made sure to touch the Torah. Such love, such care. Because he's just like you. He loved the kibbutz also. My kids would walk out in the middle of service. He'd go up to their table, pull out all the page holding ribbons and close the book, and just stand there and watch them come back with a smile on his face. And he sat through services. Gale was amazed. One Yom Kippur, he sat through the entire day in shul. When, for many people it's difficult. But he's just like you. He wants to be part of it. Several years ago, he came to the Rosh Hashanah dinner, a community Rosh Hashanah dinner, and there was a group of medical students there. And as mentioned before, he introduced himself. Jeff, name? There was a young female medical student, and he introduced himself, and after saying his usual introduction, he's, will you marry me? She got out of it somehow. But he loved the Jewish experience. I stopped by after his first stroke with a big shofar to blow it before Rosh Hashanah. He just loved the experience, loved being part of it. A number of years ago, after one of his surgeries, he was in rehab for a while. It was over Purim. And several yeshiva students came by, and they were going to read the Megillah, but right at that time, the nurses were going to take him for a test or some rehab, but he refused to go. He held on to his chair. He wouldn't let them take him. He wanted to hear the Megillah. He wanted to be part of it. He wouldn't do otherwise, because he's just like you. Jeff taught that to my kids. But despite someone's physical limitation, but Jeff embodied that which I once heard the Lubavitcher Rebbe, blessed memory, tell a parent who came asking a blessing for their child who was challenged, special needs, as they say. And the Rebbe's response is that although they may experience challenges in the physical life, they relate very closely to God. And we saw that with Jeff. The first Chabad Rebbe, the founder of Chabad dynasty, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman, taught us in Medaf Levim at the side, we live with the times. And it was taught that he meant not with local standards and local styles and the latest fads, but we live with the times, with the Torah reading, with the events that took place throughout history at this time, and we take lesson to it, and the events that take place are connected with it, and by no coincidence do we mark tomorrow the only yard site that is mentioned in the Torah. Not Moses, not Abraham, not Isaac, not Jacob. We speak about their passing, but no, not once is a mention of anyone's passing besides for Aaron HaKohen, Moses' brother. What does the Mishnah, what the ethics and our fathers tell us about Aaron? Ohev Shalom, Verodei Shalom. He loved peace and pursued peace. That was Aaron. Jeff was not a Kohen, he was a Levi, but he embodied that trait of Aaron. The love, the care, sensitivity for others. Let's reflect on the stories that we've heard, the memories that we have of Jeff, and think of what we can do to better ourselves, to take it to heart, to practice it in our day-to-day lives. Our sages tell us in the afternoon on Friday before Shabbat, The gates of Gehenna and Purgatory are closed, and the souls that ascend the high go straight to heaven. I can just imagine Jeff arriving in the gates. It's Shabbat for a while. God may be saying his Shabbos drush, because it's Shabbos afternoon in Australia, I think. But he will walk in there, and with an open heart, hug, and God will embrace him. Jeff, you may no longer be with us physically, but we can perpetuate your memory, taking the lessons to heart that you taught us, implementing them in our hearts. May you go on high and be a good Tibeter, beseech on high for the well-being of your family, your immediate family, your extended family, those that loved you, your good friends. And ask God, it's time that the world come to the ultimate peace of the coming of Mashiach, when we won't suffer any more passing, we won't suffer from any more illness, there won't be any more war or hatred. May it be speedily in our days. Amen. We'll conclude with one final chapter, Psalm of Tehillim, chapter of Tehillim, chapter of Psalms, followed by Kaddish. Michtam leDavid, Shamrini el Chesisi ba Chamart, Adonai Adonai Oto, Tivasi balalecha, Gvaktesh Mashabar Sema, Vadid Kochavsi bam, Yirbo Atzmeso Machama Haru, Malask the Skemi Dam, Malatsa Shbeso Spasai, Adonai Maschel, Kivakesi after Tamer Giraldi, Chabal, Nofli Benim, Nachla Shafal, Loi, Avorak Sadman Yasha, Yatson, Yamplay, the student for say. Shivisi and the Tommy, the Kibirin Malamade, Okain Samachli Yago Trade, the Abasadi Iskalavatach, Kilisaz, Nash, the Shell, Sidlachis, the Shahas, to the Aini, the Haiman Sevis Machas, Panachon, Imosim, Konatsach. Monos Kaddish, you have the booklets. Following Kaddish, we'll do the burial, the covering of the grave. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmi Rabba Barak. Amen. We'll begin with covering the grave. The custom is that we don't hand the shovel over one to another. We put it back into the pile of earth. The first shoveling is with the back end. Different customs as far as how many shovels to do, but we'll do our best to cover the entire grave. So we'll start that in a moment. First,
Once everybody had an opportunity to place earth into the grave, we'll be returning to our vehicles. The family has Shiva times and information on the service folder that you received when you arrived, or on the Zoom, on the link on the same website that you joined the Zoom. Also, the family requested for 2 different charities. That information is on the service folder that you received, or again, on that information is on the website that you joined the Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who want to participate in the burial, may do so from either side of the mound.
Hello, friend. Nice to see you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, once you had an opportunity to place earth into the grave, you may return to your cars.
Everybody was able to make it in. Really? Oh my God, that's even better. That opportunity.
You can see it. Sure. Definitely be in there. You know, they'll be in there, I don't know, until they didn't actually make the return to fire because we didn't have how long to wow. It turned out it was a day.
I was just waiting for one day after the week.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
24th yesterday.
Yeah, it was 24. Yeah, it's kind of weird. This
Yeah,
it's true. Thank you for coming. I know. The first stroke was unexpected. And the second stroke was completely unexpected. No, about a year apart. Because if you recall, we lived at Ryan's farm, had the stroke, and then we had to move to a nursing home. And then we got him out of the nursing home and moved to the park. Although I talked to my counselor in May of last year, and then made him feeble. He couldn't use his left side, but he could use his right side. He himself turned very well for something. And 2 nights ago, the lead in his brain is on the other side, so it disabled both sides. So it was so massive. The surgeon just took a look at the CT scan and said, there's no hope.
make them comfortable.
Then I have 2 academic semesters and maybe a third one.
That's what happened.
But I might take that very much.
I just faded. I watched them fade. The whole family was gathering around. Everybody was there. We had like 8 people in his ceremony. I'm pretty sure they do say that people wanted to play music.
Oh, I heard that on Wednesday. So didn't miss the last day.
It was the section of the brain that was affected. They said it was the brain procedure. That's like someone who has this issue. That's okay. That's okay.